It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Two Cats, One Dog podcast.
Yes, the Two Cats, One Dog podcast. A truly distasteful radio program that covers true tales of the strange, morbid, and paranormal. These men should be removed from the airways and should not be heard or taken seriously in any way. What you are about to hear may disturb you.
I just want to be pure.
The man to my right here is Jeffrey Lee. Right in front of me in the hot chair, we've got Mason, the thinnest McInnes.
What up, what up?
Way down to my right, we've got Ethan, the dog, Kern, reporting back for duty. We're celebrating our anniversary today with a repilot, American Psychos. We wanted to come right out swinging, so these are the big ones. We've got your Dahmers, your Gacy's, your BTKs. If you've heard of them, we're going to cover them in this series. We're going to go through a macabre, twisted tier list of American serial killers that rank from S tier to C tier based on infamy, charisma, and impact. And be sure to stick around until the end for my State of the Podcast address titled 1 Year of Yelling into Microphones with My Friends. So which will include updates, a contest announcement, and info on our user-submitted true crime episode, which we will be recording at the end of this month. So without further ado, let's start off with our first one. First up at bat, okay? You guys ready?
Who's
We've
on
got
first?
the most infamous American serial killer of all time, Theodore Roosevelt Bundy.
Roosevelt? Fucking piece of shit. What the hell?
I'm just kidding. His middle name is Roberts. Old Teddy Bobby Bundy. Now, he was confirmed in court to have killed 20 people, mostly young women, and was put to death by the state of Florida in 1989 at the age of 42. He was a blue-eyed, handsome devil who used his looks and charisma to tear across the country, leaving a trail of assaulted victims and bodies behind him. He was described by a friend and true crime author Anne Rule as being a, quote, sadistic sociopath who took pleasure from another human's pain and control he had over his victims, to the point of death and even after. Ted was the very definition of heartless evil. Not exactly a glowing recommendation.
No, not really.
No.
It could use improvement.
I have some notes. Bundy was born in Burlington, Vermont on November 24th, 1946. And that was kind of a good year, right? The boys were back home. We beat the Nazis and we weren't quite fighting communism or North Korea quite yet. His childhood is a bit strange. He was told that his grandparents were his parents and believed that until 1969, according to friend Anne Rule. That puts Bundy at 23 when his reality is totally crumpled. And interestingly enough, he did not start killing until 2 years later in 1971, according to Bundy himself. But his first official kill is actually 1973. As we go through this, you're going to see that it kind of varies because he is let's all say it together, a pathological liar. As it turns out, Bundy's actual mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, gave birth to him out of wedlock with an unconfirmed maybe baby daddy and war vet Jack Worthington. Maybe. At least that's what the birth certificate said, but there is no test done to prove this. Furthermore, there were rumors of his true father being his grandfather and that he was a product of an incestuous relationship. But that was ruled out in the early 2000s by using a sample of Bundy's DNA. And here's a good quote about his grandparents from Wiki that I think sums up a good chunk of why Bundy maybe was the way he was. In some interviews, Bundy spoke warmly of his grandparents and told Rule that he identified with and respected and clung to his grandfather Samuel. In 1987, however, he and other family members told attorneys that Samuel was a tyrannical bully who beat his wife and dog, swung neighborhood cats by their tails, and expressed racist and xenophobic attitudes. In one instance, Samuel reportedly threw Julia down a flight of stairs for oversleeping, which is peak fucking alpha male. Like you slept in like 9:02. Like, where's my fucking breakfast? Throwing your ass down the stairs.
Make beds that do that for you now.
That's true.
Just throw the women down the stairs. What is this, 1946?
Fucking time to wake up.
Fucking
Fucking
time
toss you out of bed.
And just have that you have it set up right at the fucking edge of the stairs. So he would sometimes speak aloud to unseen presences and at least once flew into a violent rage when the question of Bundy's paternity was raised. Bundy described his grandmother as a timid and obedient woman who periodically underwent electroconvulsive therapy for depression and was afraid to leave the house toward the end of her life. And that is depressing and sad, and maybe a bit too convenient. So let's read a bit further since we know Bundy was, again, a compulsive liar. These descriptions of Bundy's grandparents have been questioned in more recent investigations. Some locals in Roxborough remembered Samuel as a fine man and expressed bewilderment at the reports of him being violent. That characterization that Sam was a raging alcoholic and animal abuser was a convenient characterization used to make people justify why Ted was Ted, said one of Bundy's cousins. From my limited exposure to him, nothing could be further from the truth. His daughters loved him dearly and had nothing but fond memories of him. In addition, Louise's sister, Audrey Caldwell, stated that their mother could not leave her home because she suffered a stroke due to being overweight and was not mentally ill. So whether or not he grew up in an abusive household is up for debate, but here's what we do know now. He exhibited disturbing behavior at an early age. He had surrounded his sister with knives while she was asleep. I thought this was pretty interesting. I never knew this. And she would wake up to him like smiling over the bed, which is just some like Omen Damien level shit. I mean, could you
That's
imagine
terrifying.
just waking up to all the knives like kind of perfectly placed by you, and then there's little Ted sitting there. He's like, "Hey, Minnie, Satana." So another person who knew him as a child described him as a mean-spirited kid who liked to inflict pain, fear, and suffering. He would take younger children into the woods and make them strip. He would set stray cats on fire and hang them on clothespins while they burned, and he tortured people and animals. That's what he did. That's how he got his rocks off, you know? He even injured a neighborhood girl with a punji trap, which is a fucking spike trap. And I'm trying not to laugh because, that's fucking horrible. But what the fuck? And it's like your cul-de-sac was a level from Crash Bandicoot. I mean, that's just so awful. And there's more stories like about how he had an obsession with violent pornography. But let's just put it this way. This guy was deplorable and broken from a very young age. Like when you watch a horror movie or a drama that features insane origin stories for villains, and sometimes it doesn't feel realistic at all, this dude was a real example of a horror movie villain that was truly born bad. And I don't know that anything was going to stop him, short of institutionalizing him. When Bundy was 3 years old, his family moved from Philadelphia to Tacoma, Washington, just south of Seattle. Now, here's some confusion for both your author and probably you guys, because if you could recall, he was born in Vermont, but that was actually just to his mother, who quickly moved back to her parents in Philly, relinquished Ted to them. So he gets through school as an average student and graduated in 1965 at Woodrow Wilson High. Definitely best president, top three best presidents, Woodrow Wilson. I know he's
wholeheartedly
I know, I was joking. He's a fucking trash. He's a trash bag, and he sold our country to the fucking elites. He was said to have been relatively polite and soft-spoken, well-liked, but not really popular, and he didn't participate in many extracurricular activities. Bundy went off to college in 1965 to attend University of Puget Sound before transferring to the University of Washington to study Chinese. He fell in love with a classmate, Diane Edwards, whom he described as the only woman he ever loved. By 1968, he dropped out of college and worked some low-level jobs, much to his partner's disapproval. However, these jobs did get him well-networked with some political figures. Or like when he was a paid bodyguard for Arthur Fletcher during his campaign for governor of Washington. He did land a scholarship to go back to school for Chinese at Stanford University, but it's unclear if he took that opportunity or not. We do know, however, that his lack of motivation and direction kind of turned Edwards off to him. She finished college and he just kind of floated for a while, devastated by the break. And by mid-1970, he got himself picked up, dusted off, and started studying psychology back at the University of Washington, and became an honor student with high regards from his superiors. He then took a job in 1971 as a suicide hotline operator at Seattle Crisis Center, which is where he met Anne Rule, and also might be the most ironic thing in all of true crime history. I mean, a prolific serial killer working as a suicide hotline operator is...
Ding, suicide hotline? Yeah, do it.
Yeah, do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Jump, you little bitch.
Just fucking do it.
Everybody hates you. Just jump. You're right.
What are you waiting for? What am I waiting for?
Well, we're all waiting. But I just think it's funny. I mean, the job being held, that job being held by someone whose presence is so dangerous that you might be better off jumping if you were near him. But this is also right before he kind of started killing, allegedly.
It's
so
true. At this point, he was just weird and knew Chinese.
Yes, and knew Chinese.
Yeah.
Too well for a white man, I might add. In 1972, Bundy graduates from college and gets political by joining Governor Daniel J. Evans' re-election campaign. He used a sleazy method to record stump speeches from Albert Rossellini, who was running against him in the campaign, and this recording gave him an edge and proved he could be smart, aggressive, and understood the game of politics. In the fall of 73, with his up-and-coming political career, a degree under his belt, and a brand new lady friend, Bundy took up contact with his old flame Diana Edwards, and the two started a pretty serious long-distance affair. Not that either women knew they were part of. They even discussed marriage and moving in together when suddenly Bundy cuts her off and acts as if nothing happened. See, in his mind, he took all of those things that she left him over and flipped them. Instead of being a college dropout, he was now a college graduate. And he wasn't just running coffee for a politician now, he was a serious contender for local seats. He basically did all the stuff that she said he couldn't do to spite her, without her having the slightest clue that what was happening. And he deliberately cut things off to have that power of rejection back on his side. That's almost as fucked up as using lighter fluid to roast the neighborhood cat on a clothesline, but maybe not quite to that degree. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was the last shred of humanity left in Bundy's stupid body. It's unclear when exactly he started killing women, because he kind of mentioned as early as 1971, but since we've established he is a liar, let's walk through some of his convicted cases and later hit on the suspected ones. So this is directly from the wiki because it's actually a well-written summary of his reign of terror in the Pacific Northwest. So as we mentioned, there is no general first murder because he was a pathological liar. We don't really know exactly when. He told different stories to different people and refused to divulge the specifics of his earliest crimes, even as he confessed everything else in his later life. What we know is that he attempted his first kidnapping in Ocean City, New Jersey in 69, but not kill anyone until sometime in 71 in Seattle. He told psychologist Art Norman that he killed 2 women in Atlantic City while visiting family in Philadelphia in 69, and he hinted to homicide detective Robert D. Keppel that he committed a murder in Seattle in 72 and another in 73 that involved a hitchhiker near Tumwater, but he refused to elaborate. Rule and Keppel both believed that he might have started killing as a teenager, though. Bundy's earliest documented homicides were committed in 74 when he was 27, and by his own admission, he had then mastered the necessary skills. In an area, of course, before DNA profiling. On September 2nd of 1974, he assaulted and strangled a still unidentified hitchhiker in Idaho before returning the next day to photograph and dismember the corpse and finally disposing of it in a river. Exactly 1 month later, Bundy abducted and assaulted a 16-year-old girl, Nancy Wilcox, who was walking on a poorly lit roadway where he parked his car and forced her in an orchard. He did keep her alive for about 24 hours, and we can only imagine what happened to that poor girl. He later dumped her remains near Capitol National Park, but they have never been found. Later that month, on October 18th, Melissa Ann Smith, who was a 17-year-old daughter of a police chief in Salt Lake, disappeared after leaving a pizza parlor near her school that night. Her body was found nude in a mountainous area 9 days later. The examination found that she may have been alive up to 7 days after her disappearance, which is, again, awful.
Horrifying.
And it just gets worse from here. Only a few weeks later, on October 31st, so that he's hitting it hard here in October, Laura and Amy, also 17, disappeared after leaving a Halloween party by herself around midnight. She was trying to hitchhike home. Her body was found also nude on Thanksgiving Day that year near the American Fork Canyon. Examiners say she was alive up to 20 days following her disappearance. Not good. And there was a similar pattern of abuse, sodomy, assault, strangulation, all the same. And while we take a breather from that heavy stuff, I want to point out that Bundy's increasingly strange behavior at this period, he has displayed signs of being a product killer, like someone who kills for the pleasure of killing, but then he starts visiting the sites of bodies to pleasure himself, further defile the corpse, or just to do hair and makeup on the victims as if a way to kind of take care of them. This is obviously product killer behavior, or a killer who kills for the body, like Dahmer. So Bundy is kind of jumping all around here, and that is a sign of how erratic his line of thinking was at the time. As if all the killing and assaulting wasn't a good enough indicator of his mental state. Right. So due to time constraints, we have to fast forward a bit, so let's skip to the multiple times he was apprehended, kind of like Dahmer almost, and the time he escaped, and we will close out with his Florida killing spree that got him the death penalty. So Bundy was a person of interest towards the end of 74 when a woman, Carol DeRanch, escaped a dangerous encounter with him and reported the incident with great detail, including a visual description and a matching vehicle to Bundy's name, a VW Beetle. That's what the fucking most notorious serial killer in the U.S. was driving. A fucking Beetle, dude. Just a shitty old Beetle.
On brand for the Germans.
Yeah, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah, this wasn't that long after World War II. I mean, they were still in the hot seat. So he wasn't arrested, however, until August 16th in 1975, where he was pulled over for speeding, but was found with some troublesome equipment in his car. Equipment like an ice pick, handcuffs, a ski mask, a crowbar. Just like a classic dirtbag loadout. He was booked for possession of burglary tools and eventually linked to the abduction of Carol DeRanch. I gotta have my tools.
I need my tools.
He was found guilty of this kidnapping and sentenced to time in Utah State Prison. He was then extradited in 76 to Colorado to stand trial for the murder of Karen Campbell, a nurse who disappeared from her hotel room in 75. And while Bundy was in jail awaiting trial until June 1977, where at his hearing he jumped from a second-story courthouse window and I believe from the bathroom and fled. He was captured only 6 days later. He tried to go live in the mountains for a few days. I think he sprained his ankle and shit too. But he did actually escape again in December of that year through a hole in the ceiling of his jail cell that he'd been practicing jumping through, and he actually lost enough weight to be able to fit perfectly through it. I mean, this guy was slippery. He was a slippery little snake. So from here, he fled to our neck of the woods. That's right. Bundy was right here in Ann Arbor for a bit. We know this because he loved college-aged girls, and what not a better spot than Ann Arbor, Michigan. But he didn't stay here long. However, I'm sure he got into some bad stuff during his stay. So for now, we're going to focus on when he fled to Florida under the name Chris Hagen. And I believe he held many aliases, and I think even spent some time in New York at a college campus as well. But again, we got to keep pressing.
I have the aliases right here as well. So
pull that shit up, Jamie.
It's going to be Chris Hagen, Kenneth Meisner, Officer Roseland, Richard
Officer Roseland.
Richard
Officer Roseland.
Richard Burton.
Dick Burton.
Here's a good one. Dick Burton, and then Campus Killer,
the Campus Killer. Yep.
Lady Killer, and Rolf Miller.
Rolf
Miller.
Those
are
German.
all the known aliases.
Why is Rolf Miller the one that's like not like the others though?
Yeah, you got all these like basic fucking like white
Rolf
man
Miller.
names, and then you got fucking Rolf Miller.
That's such a whack ass like unsuspecting name. I guess that's why you picked him.
Hey, my name is Rolf.
Nah, dude.
My name's Rolf.
Rolf
I've
is
never done anything
again
bad.
German.
Yeah, it is German. It's German as fuck.
Oh yeah.
Remember, wasn't there a kid in Ed, Ed and Eddie named
You
German,
dad
like
locked the son of a
Rolf?
shepherd?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
He was a little fucking ADHD weirdo.
Nah, he was
Ed
he was an immigrant.
Ed the boy.
Yeah, he was an immigrant. Yeah.
He
Therefore, they should have medicated him.
Oh, I had a question.
Yeah.
Oh, so was he?
Please, I'm taking
when did
questions.
this all take place? Like, was it after he left his wife, or his wife left him?
No, we're gonna get to that later. But he actually just spoiler alert: he did not get married until he was already in prison for good.
Oh,
Yep.
no shit. Okay.
And yep. So we'll
one of
get to that
those.
later. But yeah, he did get married and have a kid.
Mhm.
He's already killed a baker's dozen young women and girls. He's been booked up 2 times but evaded capture and is about to unleash the beast to the unsuspecting students attending Florida State University, specifically the Chi Omega sorority house. Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds professional.
Oh yeah,
It was January 15th, 1978. Bundy, now fully untethered from reality and 3,000 miles away from the authorities looking for him, breaks into the Chi Omega sorority house. He walks through the halls wielding a heavy wooden log he found outside and violently attacks 4 women, 2 of which did not survive.
With a log?
With a big wooden
Just a
log. Just a
log.
big heavy wooden log. That's all this guy needed. He didn't really need much. Like, he did like to have his little kit with him, but he didn't need it. He
That's
could
true.
he could work without it.
this is crazy.
He was a real American.
Yeah.
Real
What,
American serial killer.
what you got up there? He was an innovator. He,
Yeah,
I mean, he fucking,
self-starter.
when you zig, he zagged.
Yeah.
Self-starter is fucking crazy. What do you got over there, Mason?
Rule saw something like nothing disturbing in Bundy's personality at the time. She described him as kind, solicitous, and empathetic.
Solicitous.
So that's fucking.
Well, and who said that?
It says Rule. So
Yeah, and Rule.
alongside
So
Ann Rule.
that's the
Yep,
same
yep,
woman
yep.
who also earlier in the bit called him sociopath, sadistic sociopath.
Gotcha.
That's true because that's the Bundy that she knew working with him at the hotline center,
Yeah.
and then that's the Bundy that actually ended up being the real person.
It's crazy that like one
That's
opposite
an
to
absolute
another.
double life.
Yeah,
absolute double life. And that's what he was a master at. Is you wouldn't know looking at him. I mean, pull up a picture for us really quick, just so we can show everybody what this guy looks like.
Looks like, right? Right here. This is him.
Oh, Ted.
Yeah, pull up Google though. Like, pull up a couple
I
more
got a
pictures.
couple
He looks like a fucking young Bob Saget.
Yes.
Yeah,
he does.
absolutely
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he does.
Circa,
He definitely
circa
does.
Full House.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the thing. Is
absolutely.
like that's the thing about him is that he could have been a like world class politician. I mean, he had the gift of the gab. He was good at cutting through all the nonsense, and he didn't mind getting his hands dirty.
Yeah.
So all those things combined, he had no moral compass. So he would just do whatever he needed to do to succeed. This guy could have been president if he would have like just not strangled like innocent women.
So this is
Well,
him.
probably still could have been
more
better.
recent.
Just better at hiding it.
The most recent pictures. You'll
Yeah,
see a
pull
lot
them
of
up
these
for the
ones.
big screen because we can only see a little bit.
Yeah, so like here's one. Looks
That's
like
little.
he was. Yeah, it's fucking little as shit.
It's little. I
This
miss when
mouse is
Google
pissing me off.
Tiny.
Oh, sorry. I miss when Google used to just give you big pictures, and now it does this weird.
Oh,
like,
hold
thing.
on. It's because we're not on Google. That's why we're using
Is
the
it on
fucking
Bing?
no
Oh,
Microsoft
Bing it.
Edge. Hang on one
Bing
second.
it, baby.
Sorry,
All right,
sorry, everybody.
quick
Technical
pause.
difficulties.
Quick pause here because
Yeah, we're just
we
gonna
need to
pause
get
it.
Chrome downloaded on this bitch. Like those. That's
There's
Devil is-
nothing.
There's nothing behind those
there's
eyes.
nothing
dude.
behind
There's
there,
not a
dude.
damn thing.
That
behind
is
those
very
eyes.
Hold
Mark-
up. Stop the pod.
Is this Mark Zuckerberg?
Go back. Let's get a real tarot card reading.
Oh no.
3 cards for free. Are you
Fucking
kidding me?
Oh, it's for free. You can't afford not to. It could. Oh, we
They
can know in
can't
the future.
afford not to.
Yeah, exactly.
We're losing
Exactly.
money.
We're losing money by
We're
not knowing our
hemorrhaging it
future.
right now.
Open image.
You're not even that good
tab.
looking. You're just average.
Yeah, he
With
is
a
kind of
big
like.
Yeah, it's just like normal.
No, he's kind of like
Kind of looks like Dan.
maybe
And
no,
that
he's more
one?
handsome.
That
He's
one a
more
little
handsome. He's got better eyes. I got dark
Shut
dumb
up.
eyes.
No,
I
there's
hate my
nothing
fucking
behind
eyes.
those eyes, Dan. What the hell?
That's fine. I'd rather be fucking Bundy than me. Not
Wow.
okay.
What
hold
the
on.
fuck?
My name
Okay.
is Dan.
It's intervention time.
No.
My name is Dan, and I'm a
Not in the beginning.
necrophiliac.
We've
I'm
been
saying I
floating
could
the
have
idea
worked
for
with-
a while. I think we're calling it.
All right.
I think
All I'm
it's
saying
actually
is if
time
I
to
had
call it.
Bundy's looks and body, I could have done a lot better with that than just being a stupid ass murderer.
Yeah, it's true.
I could have done something. Instead, I got this shit working with
Yeah.
this fucking slump.
There you go. That's
Okay.
probably the best one.
That's a
I'm
good
gonna
one.
have.
He's got a nice coat on.
I
I
can
do like his
be
coat.
That's a
your
prison-
hero.
That's a prison
Oh,
outfit.
sorry. From
Yeah.
here, it looks like a coat. That's nice. So he looks good.
Hmm.
He looks good.
It's got a monobrow like no other.
Well, that was the times.
Happens.
That was the times.
It's true.
So it was January 15th, 19... Oh, we did that. Okay. We'll just start it from there because that's probably where we detracted. So it was January 15th, 1978. Bundy breaks into the Chi Omega sorority house and he walks through the halls wielding a heavy wooden log he found outside and violently attacks 4 women, 2 of which did not survive. Lisa Levy and Margaret Bowman were killed, but victims Karen Chandler and Kathy Cleaner survived and were severely wounded. Bundy left behind... Bundy.
The Bundy Saints.
Theodore Bundy.
Oh, I knew it was coming. I knew it was
The
coming.
Bundy Saints. Bequitas Veritas.
Bundy left behind bite marks, bruises, and evidence of strangulation. He then attacked a 5th woman, Cheryl Thomas, who lived in a nearby apartment, but she also survived, albeit with lasting injuries. Not 3 weeks after this brutal crime spree, Bundy then abducts 12-year-old Kimberly Leach from her junior high in clear daylight. Her body was found weeks later in a rural area nearby, same MO as everything else. Finally, on February 15th of 1978, Bundy was pulled over and arrested for driving a stolen vehicle. Once booked and printed, his true identity as an escaped murderer, Ted Bundy, was revealed. And really quick, I want to point out that stolen vehicle, can you guys guess what it was?
Was it a VW?
It was a VW Beetle.
Fuck yeah.
Yep. The dude
course it
clearly
At least
had
he's
a...
consistent.
Yep, he had a fucking type.
Did he like
dude.
only wear Hugo Boss? Was that his thing?
He's really big into Chanel.
You know how
Yeah.
people get like cruelty-free like clothing? He only gets cruelty clothing. He has like the 2 of them in front of him at Target. He's like, no, I'll take the blood one. I'll take the blood diamond, please.
This one's still got a smell to it.
I could smell the fear of the little one this one was on. So he was found guilty on multiple counts of murder in the state of Florida, and once everything was said and done, 20 murders between all of his sprees. His time in court was very bizarre, and he acted as his own attorney, which pretty much never works out well, but the evidence against him was stacked enough anyway, and there's probably no way out unless he ran away again. It was late 1988, just months before his execution, living on death row when he finally started to crack a bit. And the public got to see some pretty insane interviews with him, where his mask finally slips for like 20-minute interval, and he shares these intimate details of his crimes. And we get the iconic line, "You learn what you need to kill and take care of the details. It's like changing a tire. The first time you're careful, by the 13th time, you can't remember where you left the lug wrench." So that was Ted Bundy's quote about killing people, which obviously towards the end of it was just he was doing it in such a second nature. And we get to see him squirm out of scrutiny by blaming pornography for corrupting him, lashing out at the industry just months and weeks before his death. It was January 24th, 1989, a chilly morning in Rayford, Florida, when Theodore Robert Bundy was executed via an electric chair nicknamed Old Sparky. He refused. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice?
Oh,
Go
Sparky.
ahead and sit on Sparky here
get
real
on
quick.
Sparky. It'll be
Oh,
real
Sparky
quick.
don't bite.
I have
He's
to
a good
imagine
boy.
Sparky don't bite. He just kind of likes to growl a little bit. I have to imagine that death by electric chair was probably not
Probably
a good-
sucks.
Probably
Probably really sucks.
But I don't give a fuck because fuck them.
I've heard that lethal injection is actually
I've
wicked
heard that too.
painful, but like,
Quick but painful.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
I've heard that too. So he did refuse a last meal, but was given steak and eggs and ate very little. When asked for any last words, Bundy said, "Jim and Fred, I'd like you to give my love to my family and friends."
Oh,
Yeah, very nice.
it's very sweet.
He's addressing his attorney, Jim
Ooh.
Coleman, and the minister, Reverend Fred Lawrence, because you meet with the minister to do your last rites and stuff. So he had no apologies, no admissions of guilt, and that was his only statement. At 7:16 a.m., the switch was pulled and a 2,000-volt current ran through his body. After 2 jolts and a confirmation from the prison doctor, Ted Bundy was pronounced dead at 7:16 a.m. So outside of the prison, a crowd had gathered. People brought signs, coffee, donuts, anything to make noise. Some were like having
Do you
shows.
make a lot of
Noise
noise
with
with a
donuts?
donut?
Yeah. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
you squeeze them. You go.
Now you blow into it.
Yeah, you blow into it and then you pop it like
It
a
makes a
balloon.
whistle. When you
Yeah,
blow
you
it like
we need to make a lot of noise, man. I
make a lot of
just
noise.
got Duncan.
I just got
We're
donuts. Sorry,
saved.
man. We're saved. So yeah, we've got people showed up and basically had a party. They were wearing shirts that said like Toast Head or the Bundy Barbecue.
Fuck yeah, man.
The crowd kind of cheered when they announced that he died, and his body was then cremated. The ashes were reportedly scattered in an undisclosed location in the Cascade Mountains in Washington state, possibly near where he dumped several victims, which almost to me seems a bit disrespectful.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want
Oh,
him
yeah.
to be anywhere near,
Yeah,
like
that's-
dump his
Toilet.
fucking ass in the toilet.
Yeah,
Flush 'em.
Exactly.
Flush 'em.
And the prison toilet, no less. And you might think that that's all, but there's one last piece to this that I wanted to include. Ted Bundy had a wife and daughter leading up to his death. Her name was Carol Ann Boone, a former coworker from his days at the Washington State Department of Emergency Services, and someone who initially refused to believe he was guilty. During the 1980 trial for the murder of 12-year-old Kimberly Leach, Bundy acted as his own attorney that gave him access to the courtroom floor, where he pulled off one of the most bizarre stunts in legal history. He proposed to Boone while she was on the witness stand.
What?
And under Florida law at the time, since it was done in court and in front of a judge, in front of a judge, it was considered a legal marriage. And that is actually a few states do allow that. I think Michigan's one of them. I think that if you're in a court and so you can just propose to someone while you're talking and giving your your address to the people, and that's legal because there's a judge there and you're in a court setting.
Oh, man, that's
so it's
wild.
whack, dude. It is very whack.
um
And to also do this post all this shit, you know what I mean? Go ahead.
okay, so I got a couple things here.
Okay.
Couple things about his Volkswagen, his actual Volkswagen. September, I want to say, I'm going to guess around 1974. Bundy sold his Volkswagen Beetle to a Midvale teenager in Utah, and police immediately impounded the vehicle. And FBI technicians dismantled and searched it. Hairs were discovered matching samples obtained from Campbell's body. Later, they also identified hair strands microscopically indistinguishable from those of Smith and Duranch. FBI lab specialist Robert Neal concluded that the presence of hair strands in one car matching 3 different victims who had never met one another would be a coincidence of a mind-boggling rarity.
Yeah.
And also, I found this just a little bit ago. You can actually, they still have the Volkswagen on display.
Oh, is it for sale? Can I buy it, Ethan?
No, it's so it's a 1968 Volkswagen Beetle, which he committed most of his crimes. The vehicle is now still on display, now defunct.
And where is
at
that?
the National Museum of Crime and Punishment.
Oh, we should go there. That'd be so
Okay,
cool.
all right. It actually got moved and is now at the Alcatraz East Crime Museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Sick. Okay.
So we
cool.
could actually go see
Where
that motherfucker,
was-
Yeah,
dude.
that's not that far.
The National
10
Museum
hours.
of Crime and Punishment, because it
Yeah,
couldn't
that's-
have been in a worse place than Tennessee.
What if it was in Crime and Punishment?
Gary,
New Mexico?
It looks
No,
like
it
it
was
was.
in-
I think it was.
No, it says
DC.
the museum closed in. Oh, it says it reopened. Okay.
Or Truth and
Yeah,
Consequences.
yeah. It was.
in
It was in
Mexico.
DC. Now it's in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. As of 2015.
They moved it. It was too valuable. They had to move it out of there to get it to somewhere
Dude,
safer.
I mean-
for somewhere where no one would go.
So no one would
Pigeon
think to
Forge,
go.
Tennessee. Absolutely
Tennessee.
not. It's like the only reason to go to Cleveland's the fucking.
I wonder how many.
Oh,
Like,
man.
dude, there has to be some people that want to buy
Sure.
this fucking thing.
Oh,
and how
dude,
many
I'm,
offers?
I'm surprised it hasn't. Well, here's the thing: is I think it was actually
Posterity.
after Gacy that you were no longer allowed to benefit from anything related to like crime. So, like,
Mhm.
because Gacy was famous for selling his paintings,
Mhm.
and I think the court finally ruled during that they're like, no, we're done. If anybody that is in prison is selling merchandise, all the proceeds will go towards either those victims of those people
Mhm.
specifically or a victims fund.
All right, real quick off-topic thing about Gacy, really quick, is that one of the Nickelodeon directors
Mhm.
actually knew Gacy really
Oh, yeah.
well,
Yeah,
and
which-
actually has a painting like from him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
That's true.
forget his
It wasn't
fucking
it a
name.
friend of Schneider's?
Yeah, it was the Pickle Man from fucking all that show. Yeah,
I do remember hearing about that.
Yeah, that's fucking insane.
And well, he also met Rosalind Carter.
Yep.
That and he was a politician. We're talking about now. Bundy was a wannabe politician. He really wanted to be, but he just never quite made it. But Gacy was he was well respected in his community. Like he was a well established,
Oh, dude,
respected
yeah,
member
big
of his
time.
community. He ran a bunch of KFCs and stuff, and he was well. I mean, he was fucking networks. I mean, that guy was making
was
it
in
the
local
politics.
government, right?
Yes, he was in
Yeah.
local government.
So he
I think
jumped
ran
from
for
this
mayor,
window
but-
to escape the courthouse.
Hold
Damn.
on. Let me
Sorry.
do that. No, you're fine. Show me again. Show me again.
It's going to be right here. It says the Pitkin County Courthouse where Bundy jumped from the second window from the left, second story to escape.
Damn, dude.
So, and that's a fucking fall.
That is
dude.
a drop.
That's a
and
fucking
he
drop.
only sprained his ankle. I would say that's at least that's like a 3-story. That's not a typical 2-story window.
That
When
would
I-
kill me.
That's about
That's
10
probably
feet.
So we're just talking about how he got married in court to Carol Ann Boone. The two had already been romantically involved for years, and despite his incarceration, Boone stayed fiercely loyal. She even moved to Florida to be near him and visited regularly. In 1982, she gave birth to a daughter believed to be Bundy's child, although the circumstances around the conception have always been a bit murky. Some prison guards said they looked the other way, others claim bribery was involved. Either way, the child is real and alive. But as Bundy's execution date approached, Carol Ann distanced herself. By the late 1980s, she had moved away, stopped visiting, and eventually divorced him. And as for their daughter, her identity has remained a mystery, changed and protected for her privacy, and she would be in her early 40s today. Aside from speculation, she's never come forward publicly. You know who I bet it's Anne Hathaway.
Check this out.
That's my bet.
It was that window.
I told you, dude. Yeah. That's crazy. Hold on, let me cut to you.
That's a fucking nasty drop. So it's a reporter back in.
Oh, but I do think we were
74.
pointing at the wrong one, maybe.
Well, it's still the same
It's
fucking
still-
height.
It's still really high. I would say
Because
it's
look
a
at that's
16.
that's where
That's
that's where
the-
that base level is.
So
right
I
there.
think I think we're all confused on which one it was, but yeah, I think that's 16.
Same level.
That was
Keep watching,
16,
keep
20. Yeah, that is fucking nuts.
And he only had a sprained
He only
ankle.
had a sprained ankle.
Dude, that's a leg breaker
And
drop.
then he survived for 6 days in the mountains until he came back down and got arrested
What
again.
the fuck?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And that concludes our write-up on Bundy. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I did learn a lot, and I had a blast. And I don't know, it was kind of horrible to learn about a lot of that.
It's very disturbing.
I think I
dude.
need to go pray.
Yeah, dude. I didn't find any possible suspect in Michigan, but it's likely there are bodies in many of the places that this guy hung out, and his actual body count is likely in the 30s or 40s. Probably a lot more than just the 20 that he was convicted for. I think we
Right.
all can agree on that. So our next pick for the S tier psychos is a terror pick, and that is none other than the Zodiac Killer. And that is not because of his numbers, but for the pure psychological scar that he left on the nation and the grip of fear that he held on the city of San Francisco, and the mystery behind his identity and additional murders. So we usually start with a bit of background on our subjects, but since this guy was never caught, we don't have that. So instead, let's start with the first time the Zodiac Killer was spotted, which when I was writing that, I was like, this makes it feel like he's a cryptid. He's like the cryptids of fucking serial killers.
He's like the Jack Ripper of the U.S.
Yeah, kind of. So the Zodiac story begins on December 20th, 1968 on a lonely stretch of road near Vallejo, California. High school sweethearts David Faraday, 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, 16, were parked. That's such like
That pedophile.
1950s fucking. Like,
Can you imagine being 17
16-year-old
and dating
dating a
That's
16-year-old? That's
disgusting.
horrible. They were parked along Lake Herman Road, a known lover's lane. So you know what happens there. They're basically an anal
Holy
alley.
shit!
It's true.
I never understood.
Thank you.
What, Lover's Lane?
Yeah, never that.
Wow, it just clicked for you?
Yep, sure
That's
did.
a franchise location, buddy. You better
Yeah.
get it together.
And that's I just never. Yeah.
You just now did. Sometime after 10 p.m., someone pulled up, exited their vehicle, and opened fire with a .22 caliber pistol. David was shot in the head at close range. Betty Lou tried to flee but was shot 5 times in the back. Police found no witnesses, no motive, and no suspect. Then, on July 4th, 1969, just outside of Vallejo, 22-year-old Darlene Farron and 19-year-old Michael Magoo. So, dude, that's a cougar. That's a cougar and a Magoo. He magooed himself into the wrong situation here. Were parked at Blue Rock Springs Park when a car pulled up beside them, then drove off, only to return moments later. A man approached their window with a flashlight and, without a word, began shooting a 9mm Luger. Darlene was hit multiple times and later died. Michael survived despite being shot in the neck and face. About 40 minutes later, the Vallejo Police Department received a phone call from a man claiming responsibility for both this attack and the Lake Herman murders. And that was, of course, the Zodiac, making his first direct contact. And of course, this is strange and something you might only hear about in the movies, but here it is unfolding in the late 1960s in beautiful San Francisco, California. And on August 1st, 1969, things really escalated. 3 major newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, each received a letter from the killer. He claimed credit for the murders and included a piece of a victim's shirt as proof. Enclosed in the letters were 3 parts of a cipher, which he demanded to be printed or he'd kill again. One cipher, now the famous Z408, was cracked by a school teacher and his wife, and it read, in part, "I like killing people because it's so much fun. It's much more fun than killing wild game in the forest." No game was included, only the beginning of a game. So that's how I imagine he's just a goofball, goober. So this guy is playing games with the police and the news, kind of like Jigsaw toys with his victims in Saw, except these are unsuspecting young adults getting brutally slain for being at the wrong place at the wrong time. And before we get into more killings, I think a major part of the Zodiac psychology is an inability to have intimacy and an anger that stems from that. So he goes out dressed like a fucking maniac. Go ahead and pull that up for me, Jamie. Show me what the Zodiac looks like. He's fucking terrifying.
I mean,
he goes out dressed like a fucking executioner, and he purposefully goes to places that young kids hook up because he's a voyeuristic maniac that gets off with the power he exudes over these helpless couples. Moreover, sorry, I'm getting all spitty. Moreover, we know he didn't sexually assault anyone in these scenarios, but there was clearly a sexual component to these crimes, considering the power dynamics and the bondage. Because that was always he goes on to end up tying people up too at one point. It's pretty disgusting. So I'm gonna switch to. I want you to pull up some pictures for us
So
here,
this-
young Jamie.
This is like one of the possible
Yeah,
stills. You can
that's
see some of the bodies
terrifying.
in the back right here. And this is fucking crazy.
It's
dude.
creepy. It's creepy. So he's
So are these
basically wearing
photos
like a
that he sent to the newspaper
yeah.
or the cops?
Yeah, Mason. Where are those photos
I
from?
don't fucking know.
You
Let me
wiener.
tell
It's
you,
from
man,
Google.
It's just fucking Google,
It's from
man. You tell me
Google.
to pull up shit, I go to Google
Pull
and
that
find
shit
an
up,
image.
Jamie.
Shit, man. Let's see here. So that's the cross.
That's his symbol. So if you see that, you know it's the Zodiac because he would leave that symbol like written and on notes and shit. There-
Yo, that's
No, that
fucking
guy
crazy,
Sounds like
dude.
fucking
That
Gumby.
sounds like the guy that I voiced earlier.
So
Is this
there's a
ransom note?
couple
It kinda
of
did,
ransom
fuck.
notes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not going to translate well. That
No.
Can you make it bigger?
Enhance.
Enhance. Enhance.
That's about as big as I can
Okay,
get.
that's
baby.
fine. That's what she said. Or he. But yeah, that's kind of that was his demeanor though. He would wear this almost look like he had an executioner bag on his head,
Mhm.
and he was all blacked out, and he would black out whatever like glasses he had would be kind of blacked out looking.
So wait a minute, they never got this guy?
no,
No.
never.
You didn't know
never.
that? Yeah.
No, dude, I don't know anything about this guy.
Yeah,
Like,
like, he never got
this
caught.
is all new to me.
Awesome.
Yeah, no,
this is
dude.
fucking
Yep.
crazy. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, getting back to it, not to be gross here, but much like BTK, I think this dude was getting off while he killed these people. He just didn't act on it physically. This is going to get really graphic, everybody. I don't know how else to kind of tiptoe around it, but when
Welcome
he
to
was-
the Two Cats, One Dog podcast.
Yeah, for
Whiskey
real, dude.
ginger.
Yeah, this is-
We're
this is-
going in
yeah,
deep
this
here
is
today, so
absolutely a
viewer
whiskey
discretion
ginger.
is advised.
Yeah, whiskey ginger episode here, absolutely. But just for an example, BTK, when he was a family annihilator and he was a very strange person. We're going to talk about him next time because he gets the name BTK, bind, torture, kill. So he would bind all the members of the family that he was stalking out, and when he eventually pulled the trigger on this, and it was this horrible, horrible thing. But during that act, during that ritual, he would masturbate into the corner while these people are helpless. People are tied up, and like, he's systematically killing them one by one. So I think something similar is happening. There's also another serial killer I can't remember right now, but he would basically blow one in his pants when he was like killing people, and he wasn't physically assaulting people, but there was a sexual component to it, absolutely. And I think the same thing was kind of going on here. That's at least my theory.
The majority of more serial killers are
There-
sexualized.
If you
fucking
take out,
murder.
if you get under the hood and
Yeah.
you look close in at the psychology behind a lot of, there is a lot of sexual stuff in it. A lot of it comes from abuse as a child. So moving on to his third attack, on September 27th, 1969, college students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were picnicking near Lake Berryessa in Napa County. A man wearing a black executioner-style hood approached, claiming he was an escaped convict. He tied them up and then brutally stabbed them. Brian was stabbed 6 times and survived. Cecilia was stabbed 10 times and died 2 days later. Before leaving, the killer drew a symbol on Brian's car, now known as the Zodiac's crosshair, and wrote the dates and methods of his previous killings, just to kind of prove that it was indeed him who has been doing this stuff.
This is insane.
Yeah. He also called the police on himself again from a payphone, reporting the crime in his chilling monotone voice. Then, on October 11th, 1969, in San Francisco's Parasito Heights, the Zodiac strikes for the 4th time. Paul Stein, a 29-year-old cab driver, picked up a fare who asked to go to Cherry Street. But instead of paying, the passenger shot him in the head, took his wallet and keys, and ripped off a piece of his shirt. And here's the kicker. 3 teenage witnesses watched the killer flee. Like, this happened kind of like late night, but it was it was in the middle of the street. I mean, this was like a very public thing. And he gave a description to the police. But due to a dispatch error, officers were told to go look for a black male suspect. Instead, the Zodiac, who was white, simply walked away. Days later, the San Francisco Chronicle received a letter containing a piece of Paul Stein's bloodied shirt, confirming that it was indeed the Zodiac they were dealing with. Then, from here, he really starts leading into these games and basically holds San Francisco hostage. Between 1969 and 1974, the Zodiac sent dozens of letters. Some contained more ciphers, others included threats to bomb school buses or described fantasies about enslaving his victims in the afterlife. This guy got really schizophrenic with it really quick. One letter included a diagram of a bomb. Another claimed he killed 37 people, though only 5 murders and 2 attempted murders have been linked to him. And in 2020, over 50 years, a team of cryptologists finally cracked one of his ciphers, the infamous Z340, which read, "I hope you are having lots of fun trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner." Ooh. So this guy's like the literal fucking Joker. I mean, this is his Joker arc. He even wrote a letter to the newspapers saying he was going to shoot out the tire of a school bus and pick off kiddies as they came waddling out one by one. Absolutely sinister behavior, and this is what we mean when we say he had San Francisco held hostage. Parents would not let their kids walk to or even sometimes go to school. Gun sales soared through the roof in the Bay Area, and the San Francisco Times was literally printing out everything the Zodiac was sending, even when it turns out that there were a couple frauds in the mix. His last confirmed kill was that of Paul Stein, which we just covered in October of 1969, the cabbie, and we haven't really heard much from him since. There was a debacle on TV where a man called in and claimed to be the Zodiac, and it was pretty strange. It was October 22nd, 1969, just 11 days after the murder of cab driver Paul Stein. That morning, the phone rang at KGO-TV, the local ABC affiliate. A man claiming to be the Zodiac said he wanted to speak, not to the police, not to the public, but to a well-known defense attorney, Melvin Belli. Producers scrambled. Belli, a high-profile lawyer who had defended Jack Ruby, of course the man who killed Lee Harvey Oswald, agreed to appear on a live television talk show that morning, The Jim Dunbar Show, which aired daily on KGO-TV. Police and FBI agents quietly listened behind the scenes, waiting. They hoped this might be the moment that Zodiac cracked. A live confession on the air. And I hope that you guys can appreciate how fucking insanely huge this was at the time. This is before the
massive,
fucking internet.
dude.
This is before like any kind of instant connection to anybody.
Yeah.
And you're watching this shit on live TV in the morning. This mass killer is claiming to call in and wants to speak to somebody directly on TV. I mean, this is unprecedented. Then during the broadcast, the man called in. Not once, but over a dozen times. Each time he sounded erratic and emotionally unstable. He didn't call himself the Zodiac. Instead, he referred to himself as Sam and claimed he was losing control. In a voice that was sometimes desperate, sometimes disoriented, he told Belli, "I don't want to go to the gas chamber. I can't control myself. Help me." Belli played along gently, trying to get him to reveal more, and at one point the caller agreed to meet Belli at a Daly City police station to surrender. Officers staked out the location hoping to make an arrest, but of course no one ever showed up. The calls were later traced back to a patient at a mental hospital in Napa. His name was Eric Wheel. He had no connection to the Zodiac whatsoever. He was seriously mentally ill and had a history of erratic behavior, including making hoax calls. And after the incident, he was recommitted for psychiatric care. And that's about all we have in the Zodiac. There are many theories on who it might have been, but we'll never truly know who the Zodiac was. Some think that it was a group of people, maybe like ex-combat vets that were working together in some kind of underground society. I would like to talk about some of these theories, but we'll have to save that for maybe a Patreon-only episode one day. All right, guys. Well, do you have any thoughts you want to wrap up on the Zodiac before we move on to our next one and our last one for the night?
All I gotta say is that this is like some actual.
It's fucking
Like,
insane, right?
This is fucking crazy.
Have you ever watched the movie Zodiac with Robert Downey Jr. and
No.
and Jake Gyllenhaal and stuff?
No.
And
Cloris
Mark
Leachman.
Ruffalo?
No,
Cloris Leachman.
no, I haven't.
Shut up. It's really good. And they
Anyone
do-
who knows Cloris Leachman.
Finally, our last pick for the night on our S tier list, which we will wrap up next week, is going to be Samuel Little, who is absolutely in S tier because of his numbers and is suspected to be the most prolific serial killer in all of America's history. Do you guys ever hear of this guy, Sam Little?
Yeah, no. When we were talking earlier, this is the first time I've heard of this guy.
Yeah.
But I'm not real big on. I wasn't really fascinated with a lot of serial killers when I was younger, and the more and more now, like ever since we started this shit, it's gotten a lot more interesting to me. So it's really cool to see. Not cool, but
Yeah, it's really cool to see serial killers
it's
thrive.
really
They do
it's
some
really
really cool
interesting
stuff.
because like there's so many of these ones that I've never heard of.
Yeah, there's
Like,
a lot of them. And this,
I mean, I've only heard of like obviously Ted Bundy, fucking
like
Jeff
Dahmer.
Dahmer, and fucking like Jack the Ripper and
Yeah.
the fucking Unabomber, which we should do sometime.
oh, we'll talk about the Unabomber.
Yes.
Don't worry. He'll be
To
in this.
be
He'll probably be in
I
this
really
list.
wanna
He'll
talk
probably
about
be in
that
this
one.
List. Yeah, he'll probably be an A-lister.
I think so too. Yeah, I would consider it a
instead
list.
of an S tier total. So Sam Little was confirmed in court to have killed 60 people, but it's suspected that he is responsible for up to at least 93
Holy
deaths.
Oh
shit.
fuck!
I mean,
That
this
is
guy
close.
just wiped out a lot of people.
How many?
93 is suspected his
Holy
like actual
fucking
count,
shit.
but he's responsible for 60.
Dude,
as far
this
as
is actually
reports.
close to where most of my family grew up
That's
at, dude.
wild.
Yeah, it's like smack dab between Cleveland and Cedar Point.
Yeah, so
Oh, did you think they went to Cedar Point?
No, I'm sure.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. You think they roamed the Millennium Forest? That's awesome.
my family, a lot of
Do you think
so-
he killed somebody at the Millennium Forest? He's like waiting in line and just pissed off. He starts taking people out one by one.
we will go.
We're
we
gonna
can
go to
do
every
this.
spot where he killed one of his victims. That's the most macabre fucking road trip in the world.
We're gonna be gone for probably about 3 months.
We're gonna be gone. Well, we're gonna be gone for life if we really truly follow in his footsteps. So Samuel Little was born on June 7th, 1940 in Reynolds, Georgia. His mother, Bessie Mae Little, was a 16-year-old who reportedly worked as a sex worker, though this detail comes from Samuel himself and has never been fully confirmed. Not long after his birth, Little was moved to Lorain, Ohio, which we just figured out where the hell that is, where he primarily was raised by his grandmother. His early years were marked by instability and trouble. He had difficulties in school, struggled with discipline, and showed early signs of antisocial behavior. By his own later accounts, he developed violent sexual fantasies by the time he was a teenager, many of which involved strangulation. He kind of has some similarities to Bundy so far, if we're being
yeah.
totally honest. Raised by his grandparents, wanting to strangle people, violent pornography. These disturbing thoughts would evolve into real-life horrors that spanned decades and cost dozens of lives. Little dropped out of high school and began living a transient lifestyle. He was kind of vagabond. He's kind of groovy, if you know what I mean. He moved frequently, drifting from state to state, surviving through theft, shoplifting, fraud, and manual labor jobs. He also boxed for a little bit, training as a prize fighter under the alias Mad Sam. This experience helped him develop incredible upper body strength. Always good for a serial killer to have really nice
Every
upper body
time
strength.
I help someone strengthen their core, it comes back to bite me in the ass.
That's fucking. Oh my god. So importantly, he rarely used weapons, which means that there is very often little forensic evidence in his crimes, making them exceptionally difficult to solve. His criminal record began early and ran deep. By the 70s, Little had already been arrested dozens of times across the country for various offenses, so dueling charges of burglary, assault, DUI, shoplifting, and attempted sexual assault. To name a
Burglars
few.
and arsonry.
Yeah, burglarized larceny. Despite the sheer volume of his interactions with the police, he managed to avoid serious prison time. One reason for this is that he targeted vulnerable women. We've talked about this a lot of times in the podcast, the less dead, many of whom were sex workers, addicted to drugs, maybe of color, or living on the streets. These were women who didn't often have families looking for them, and in some cases, their deaths weren't even treated as homicides. Actually, quick shout out really quick to the most recent season of like the prequel Dexter thing, where they were working a case and they literally had it labeled as a non-human case, which is a real thing that didn't come from fiction. The writers, like they used to genuinely, before like the 90s and 2000s, they actually would have seriously less dead people in their morgue that they would just label as a non-human case because it just didn't matter. They don't have someone to contact. There's no way to identify them. We don't really have the time or resources to deal with it. And that was a genuine classification that people used for that. And I'm sure probably still kind of exists to some degree today. The first confirmed killing attributed by Little took place in Miami, Florida, a fitting place to just talk about Dexter, in 1970. But the vast majority of his murders occurred between 1984 and 97. He later claimed to have killed 93 women in total. Investigators have since verified at least 60 of these confessions, making him the most prolific known serial killer in the U.S. history. His method was almost always the same. He'd approach women in bars and street corners or areas where sex workers were common, and he'd lure them into his car, usually via offering a ride, money, or drugs. What do you want to choose, me or drugs? I choose drugs. I choose drugs. There, he'd beat them and then strangle them with his bare hands. One of the reasons he avoided detection for so long is that he traveled constantly. As we mentioned, he was transient. He was a vagabond. He murdered in California, Texas, Florida, Ohio, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, and beyond. It kind of feels like that Johnny Cash song. I've been everywhere, man. I've murdered everywhere, man. That pattern was difficult to recognize because the crimes happened across multiple jurisdictions in a time before we shared information, and the victims were just never identified. The official cause of death in most of these cases were just listed as an overdose or undetermined, especially during the crack epidemic in areas where law enforcement was already stretched thin. He had an uncanny ability to blend in, disappear, and then move before anybody connected the dots. Like I said, groovy. He's a fucking groovy guy. Incredibly, Little had been arrested in connection to several murders over the years, but was either acquitted or had charges dropped. In 1982, he was charged with murdering a woman in Pascagoula, Mississippi, which I have been to and spent a full week of my fucking life in. Do not want to go back, but the case did fall apart. In 1984, he was arrested in San Diego after a woman escaped his car and flagged down the police. In the trunk, officers found another unconscious woman he had assaulted, so he wasn't satisfied with just the one that night. He needed two. Sometimes
He's
you
on a
need
roll.
to. I ate 2 coffee cakes yesterday. I was like, I don't want just one. I want 2. He was sentenced to 4 years, but served less than 2, which is just insane to me. But this is very par for the course of the South. I mean, this is the South back in the 70s and 80s.
What?
Yep. Each time he
man.
slipped through the system,
It's a
he
bummer.
kept killing. Again, why do you think someone wrote Dexter? It wasn't until 2012 that everything began to unravel. That year, Little was arrested in Kentucky on a narcotics charge and extradited to California for an outstanding warrant. While in custody, his DNA was entered into the national database where it matched 3 unsolved murders in Los Angeles in the late 80s. All 3 victims were women who had been strangled and left in the alleys or dumpsters. In 2014, he was convicted of those murders and sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole. Now, that would have been the end of the story, but in 2018, something extraordinary happened. Extraordinary might be misuse of the word. Texas Ranger James Holland, working with the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, VICAP, began interviewing Little in prison. What started as a standard interview turned into one of the most chilling confessional sprees in American criminal history. Little began admitting to dozens of murders, recalling vivid and disturbingly accurate details of each one. He had damn near a Rain Man photographic memory for the people that he killed, which is just insane. And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I remember that doe down there that I strangled up down last what was it? It was a Tuesday. It was kind of a nice night out. Remember that night? It was just, I mean, it's just fucking despicable. In many ways, Little's confessions were both a breakthrough and a tragedy. They also solved cases that had gone cold for 30 to 40 years, but they also revealed that massive systemic failure that allowed him to keep killing for so long. So, I mean, he was killing for 30 or 40 years, you guys. Many of his victims' deaths hadn't even been investigated as homicides. They just had been forgotten. And yet, Little remembered all of them, sometimes describing them in grotesque or boastful terms, but always with the specificity that only the killer could know. Samuel Little died on December 30th, 2020 at the age of 80 in a California hospital, so he made it pretty long and lived way too full of a life for such a bastard that he was. The exact cause of death was not disclosed, but he had numerous health problems, including, but not limited to, diabetes, heart issues, and other chronic illnesses. He died serving multiple life sentences, but for just a fraction of the murders he committed. But he will be remembered always as the most prolific serial killer in the U.S. history. So do you want to pull up a picture of Sam Little?
Again, you weren't far off with the voice.
I'm usually not.
Is there something you're not telling me?
Oh, I hate how much he remembers about it.
Yeah, this
I
is
really hate
sickening.
it. That's despicable.
And that's
dude.
him like in his 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That man was old. He was an old man recounting on some of the best moments of his life.
It's 5 years ago.
That's what messes me up.
It's 5
Yeah,
years.
it just
well,
doesn't
it was
mean that
posted
that's
5
yeah,
years ago.
that's when
But
it's
yeah, I
posted.
mean that's relative, like the camera quality and everything.
Yeah,
that's
no, it seems like it was probably recent.
recent.
I mean, when did we say he died? Like
2020.
2020? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that probably was relatively recent. And he's got some more from before there too, because I
Oh,
remember him.
there's even
there's a lot.
There's one about Little Rock, Arkansas.
Yeah,
There's
he'll
the
talk
New
about all of them.
Orleans, Louisiana, 1982. There's even the Las Vegas one.
Like aside from all the
There's-
killing, I would love to hear about like his nights out in New Orleans. Down there in New Orleans, down the bayou, down there, like what the fuck? Damn it, Boomhauer! I didn't understand a goddamn word you said. That damn legal jargon.
Take it down to the Everglades.
So, do you guys have anything you want to add before I do my quick state of the podcast thing?
Nah.
Do you want to have anything you want to add about any of the people we talked about today? Anything you want to say before I take
I didn't know
over?
this Zodiac Killer killed that many people. I thought it was
6
like a
people.
dozen.
Yeah.
Oh, it was only 6?
6 people.
Okay, that tracks.
Yeah.
5.
I thought it was 6.
5, 2 were injured.
2 injured.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
7.
yep. Seven
That's what I-
victims,
7 all day.
5. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like
7 all day.
you
It's
hear
like
the name
all
and you
day.
think it has
just
something to do
got
with
7 chicken
Zodiacs, and it
sandwiches.
doesn't.
No, because he left such a terror. That's why I put him on there too. Is like because he didn't kill like as many people as Sam Little or even Dahmer or Gacy or Bundy, but he just left such a huge mark on society.
It's
These are all his confessions right here.
Yeah, no, 93 of them. 93 Mason.
but
Young Jamie Mason.
No,
93.
I could have sworn that like his killing had shit to do with like the actual Zodiac itself, but I don't like.
No, he got. It's
Why
because,
did they call him that? Then?
Jamie, pull that shit up.
Why do they call it
Just
the
Google
Zodiac?
why.
So,
Google
yep, I
why do
got
they
it.
call him?
I got
Yeah.
it.
Oh, he named himself.
So the Zodiac coined his name in a series of taunting messages that he mailed.
in the letters.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess he did reveal himself. Maybe we didn't read his letters in full, but I guess he did just call himself the Zodiac.
So why did he call him the Zodiac?
Killer. I'm the Zodiac Killer, and please don't make me upset because I'm gonna go happy-go-lucky with my
I'll fucking do it again.
Oh,
Says that the favorite.
I'm the Zodiac.
There's not really a actual definitive like reason why, but there are some
Like
theories.
yeah. Well, but let's save the theories because we're gonna save all Zodiac theories for another episode.
Okay.
So that's where we're gonna leave it there. Because we don't want to give too much content out at once. You know what I mean? We got to thread it through like gold.
It's true. You got to
like
drip feed.
Drip feed.
The
Everybody
one
good?
thing I will say, so like I looked up or I Googled like the worst serial killer in Australia's history.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many do you think?
How many do you think he got?
Yeah.
Shit. I feel like you're baiting me, so I'm gonna say 100.
You're definitely
100,
getting baited.
100
But
some.
which way?
It's probably more than 100.
Nope.
Fuck less.
Way less.
Really? Those
4.
pussies.
Yeah.
Really? Actually?
You're really close.
No, I thought that. Wait, didn't the mass shooter? Does that count? Because
No.
the mass shooter they just covered on last pod. The
Mhm.
reason that they got all their guns,
Yeah,
like the buyback. What is his name?
Not Sandy Hook. It was
No, that's in
Port
here.
Port Austin.
Port
Port Arthur?
not Port Austin. It's
Port
Port
Arthur.
Arthur, I think.
Yeah, Port Arthur.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Port Arthur massacre. I think he killed at least 11 plus people. Maybe it might have been
Thought
in
it
the
was
20s.
23.
I think it is in the 20s.
Is that just not considered a serial killer then?
No,
because it's a
called
spree killer.
a
A serial killer is somebody who like picks out like
Methodical.
Yeah.
methodical,
pre-planned.
and it's at least more than 2 times or 2
Oh,
times or
okay,
more.
gotcha.
And it's not in the same incidents.
Yeah.
Whereas like a mass killer is like you can go out and blast 30 people at once, but then you're just you're
a serial
mass
killer usually is looking for a specific type of victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like-
They're
like
seeking
yeah.
somebody
They
out.
prey on the people. That's what makes him a serial
Yeah.
killer, I
Yeah.
think.
So
Gotcha.
But,
So anyway,
yeah.
the number was 7.
that's
By
crazy.
the way, yeah.
That is
I
not
was
that
like-
many. Was it the one that they based? Remember that wacky Australian horror film that was like that you're getting hunted? I cannot remember the fucking name. I might need you to pull this up, Jamie.
Wacky Australian horror film.
Because it was like more recent, not recent, but like probably mid 2000s, and it was about. I think it was loosely based on the true story of like the biggest serial killer, because he like basically treated people like he was hunting animals.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that actually does sound familiar.
Yeah, I think that was him because he set traps out in the field. He had this huge swath of
Wolf
land.
Creek.
Yes, Wolf Creek, and that was based on him.
Yes, it
Yep.
was
Loosely based on the-
Wolf Creek was marketed in both Australia and international markets as being based on a true story, though it is in actuality a composite inspired by several true crimes, including a aforementioned killings by Milat and Murdoch.
Maybe that was it. Mila Murdoch.
Yeah, I think Milat was who I'm
Milat
thinking
Murdoch.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that settles that, huh?
That's cool.
Settles
Yep.
that. That puts that matter to bed. All right. So, oh shoot. Okay.
Oh, I've seen the cover of this before.
It's a good movie.
Yeah,
I
I've seen
saw
this.
when I was a kid. So, all right. So, thank you all so much for listening. Please leave us a 5-star or a thumbs up wherever you found us. We love you all so much. And if you love us back, you will please give us just a few more minutes of your time for a brief state of the podcast address. Now, I'm going to be cueing the patriotic music behind me here, but you just won't hear it right now. Da, da, da. And it's the Russian, the fucking.
Oh, here we go.
No. We're going to get canceled. I stand with Ukraine. So today was a repilot episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And the repilot is both a marker to show where we've been and an arrow to show where we're going. After nearly a year of recording, I've learned a few things about production, audio quality, storytelling, fucking YouTube, and we've got new mics, new cameras. We've got basically a whole new studio, if we're being honest, with our new comptroller Mason at the PC throne, aka the cuck chair. This is all.
Fuck, I don't like that. Don't fucking call it that.
This is all to say that you're the comptroller. I know. This is all to say that we've really got the wheels on this thing, you guys. And I am proud of what we've done so far, what we have out there. And I want to see our new standard be today and forward. Like, this is our new standard going forward. Returning to our roots all together, all four of us with new equipment and the knowledge that only comes from a year of stammering into a microphone with your friends. We're going to now follow kind of a 70-30 rule, 70% true crime, 30% creepy stuff, cryptids and conspiracies. And we are back with the news episodes. The last one I thought was really fun. Me and Lee always have a good time and try to pick wacky stories from around the world. We really do try to make them entertaining and long lasting so that you can listen to them anytime, even if it's older news, because I think they're still fun. They're still fun stories, even if you didn't catch them right away. You can listen, you can watch, and you can look forward to bi-weekly uploads. We're going to have one main episode, like main topic like today, and then we're going to have one news episode a week going forward. I do also want to remind everybody that we are active on Patreon. We are so thankful for our current members. We do actually have a couple, but only one paying currently. He is Zach Ajawia. We know you. We love you. Shout out to Zach. Hello.
Much love, Zach.
Yeah, much love. We will be sending out a shout out to every Patreon member at the end of our main episodes as well, until we get like thousands, which I'm sure we will. Then we can do it. Also on there, you can find a Discord link to hang out with us, all of our old vaulted contents, and the occasional never before heard episode. There's already content there, including Conspiracies 101, which is a Patreon only episode. I think you guys remember that. Was a great time. I loved it. And then when we do have merch, which will be available by summer, it will only be available on Patreon. Now, you don't have to be a paid member to access that, to order stuff. It's just going to act as our storefront. Just so everybody understands, you don't have to be a member to get our merch once that comes around, but it will be only found there. So lastly, my last thing, we are doing a huge drive to boost our listeners and engagement. We've got business cards in our pockets. They look really good. We've got that merch coming. Like I mentioned, we've got big plans, and we need your help to pay for all this shit. So we're offering a free month of Patreon membership to any listener who brings in 5 followers. The person who brings in the most new listeners by July 21st will get free merch as well. So you kind of get like a merch care package as soon as we have it. You guys are going to be the first ones to get it after that deadline's met. Of course, for all the details, just kind of reach out to us on Spot. We'll figure out a way to make that easy for you to prove that you brought in people, but we're counting on you guys. You're going to get free hats, beanies, all that kind of shit from China if you win that contest. So, but in the meantime, all you have to do is 5 people and you get a free full month of our Patreon members. And we're going to wrap up this month of May with user-submitted true crime stories, so please send those in via email at 2cats1dogpodcast@gmail.com, or leave us a comment below, slide into our socials, or just get it to us soon, because we've already got a lot of them. We've actually do have a ton of user-submitted shit already, so if you want it to make the cut, do it soon. We're going to be recording that at the end of the month. So sorry, I know that was a lot, but that's it. That's all I had for you. I just wanted to kind of reflect on being here for a full year, guys. We've been recording for a fucking year.
Happy birthday.
And happy birthday to us. And I just wanted to just let everybody know we're out here giving you guys our best fucking content, putting our best foot forward. From now on, we're always going to be doing what you guys love and come here for. So thanks so much for listening. We love you. Drive fast, take chances, smoke 1,000 cigarettes, be a bad person. You only live once. I don't know.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Did you enjoy this episode? Then check out more at 999.network, Mid-Michigan's premier podcast network.